So, hi guys, we're here at the Orville Experience, and I've got two fantastic producers from the show. We've got Tom Constantino, and we've got Jon Cassar, and you guys might know him from social media. But basically, we are here because season 3 is coming. We've got the news. We are all very excited. So, at the moment, whereabouts are you in production?
Well, we're writing, basically. The writers are holed up in a room, and that's not even an exaggeration. They really are holed up in a room.
You're not going to let them out?
And we're not going to let them out until they deliver all the scripts. Yeah. So basically, we are a series that they do write all the scripts before we start. So it's a big advantage for us because we do have a lot of work. As you can see by the props and the wardrobe and the visual effects, we have to get ahead on that. So they write all the scripts before we even start. So we're waiting for all the scripts to be written. We're getting our crew together and then starting to get, the art department. The art department's already started, so that's exciting. There's going to be new places to see on the ship that we haven't seen before.
Finally!
We can tell you that. But that's about it. And then Tom and I kind of wait for to get going.
Yeah, I mean we're here. We never quite actually leave. That's sort of the thing. So.
Oh, you're living here now.
Oh yeah. Oh well, I definitely lived in this room, but I mean like John and I, we're like we come with the furniture.
Yeah. we're sort of Orville is kind of a full-time job.
Kind of a full-time job.
Kind of the whole year, even though we're not shooting. We're still involved.
Yeah.
Well, that's good for us fans to know because we're always thinking about it, wondering what we're going to have next. So you guys probably do know some of that stuff. So you mentioned already we're going to see different parts of the ship.
Yes.
Are you going to? Is there any particular areas it's going to be more family orientated or living quarters, or are you going to?
I'm not telling you that.
Nothing like that.
Try. That was a good try, though.
Yeah, we just
That was
moved.
a very nice try.
To the end of our NDAs.
But some of the areas that I really like, you got the bridge, but we get to see people hanging out in the mess and things like that.
I mean, it's really interesting because I think our show parties more than any. I think our crew party more than any other crew in space
They drink a
ever.
lot.
Where do we get all the booze? I don't even know.
I don't know. I don't even know what our cake limit is. It's like it's our cake budget is like through the roof. But no, and I love that too because I think Seth really tapped into. You'd be on these ships forever. You'd be on there for 2 or 3 years. You would have downtime. You would do that.
Really?
You would hang out with your friends at the bar. I mean, that's just something that makes it. Look, I think what's really interesting about these scripts and the comedy in these scripts and what Seth has done is that they make all these people real and they make them feel like they're people we know. Yeah. None of my friends walk around in a somber mood. They're fooling around and telling jokes and we drink at the bar. So it's like I identify with that right away, and I think so does our audience.
It's a workplace comedy, but in space.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I'm also going to say too is that people deal with life through gallows humor, and so many narratives now. Everyone just. It's all just sadness, and that's not how people get through pain or trauma or drama, and so that's why the show feels real.
So obviously last year we know it did get a bit more somber in terms of the tone. So what are we looking at for season 3? It's going to be more lighthearted?
Well, no. I mean, again, we're not in the writing room, but I really don't think more lighthearted. I don't think that's going to happen. I think you'll still have the elements of comedy. I'm pretty sure of that. I think the action quotient is probably going to go up because every time I go by the writers, I joke. I say, "Is it going to get smaller or bigger than last year?" And they all just kind of laugh. And I go, "How cute! It's going to be bigger, isn't it?" And they go, "Yes, it's going to be bigger." So we're excited about that. We like it.
Yeah, we like it too. And guess who has to figure it out?
Yeah, and that's the action is part of my specialty. So that's mostly what I do. And so we're excited about that. We like that. We want bigger. I mean, we want the challenge.
The fans and the critics are excited about it now as well because you're looking at potentially getting an Emmy now as well. And certainly for Identity, it was a fantastic piece of sci-fi TV last year. But a lot of people are wondering, how are you going to follow that up? Are we going to see the aftermath now of the Klingon War? Are you going to move ahead? Are you going to be doing a lot more fighting?
Well, I think one thing that Seth and his writing team have done well is they keep touching back on other episodes. And that's again pure sci-fi. That's what you do. And the fact that they saved that surprise of the Kalon, halfway through the second season is sci-fi at its best. The fact that you loved the Kalon and you loved Isaac, and they turn out to be the mortal enemies of humans, it was just incredible. I think all of us, when we read it, just went, "Are you kidding me?" And of course there were tons of challenges because we had one Isaac suit. And suddenly there were 50 Kalon running around. So,
somebody had to make all this.
You can imagine Wardrobe going, "What?" And so So there were a lot of challenges because of that. What does the Kalon planet look like? If robots live in their own world with no humans, what do they have chairs? No, they don't. So there were no chairs. So you have to figure all that out. So that was really exciting. And I think we've got a fan base that we absolutely love. We love our fan base, and they've been with us from the very beginning. But there's also, I think, a group of people that were on the fence with us through the year, and I think once Identity happened, I think all those people jumped over the fence, and they're now part of our fantastic fan base.
I'd like to think that when the two-parter at the end came around, we sealed the deal.
Absolutely. I mean, those two sets of, because that was kind of a two-parter also. Not quite, but it truly was actually. It was a two-parter.
Yeah.
But then,
but so those two, I think, just put us in a completely different category in people's minds more than anything else. I think for us, it's just a show for us. We've always taken it seriously. We know there's social issues we deal with all the time.
Right.
So for us, it wasn't any different. But I think from fans that were constantly kind of, what's that show? And now I think they've come over.
So obviously, because of the events that happened in the finale, are we now looking at essentially a reboot of sorts?
Not really a reboot. I think you're just going to be touching base with some of the things that happened. But I think we're back. We're back to our timeline. Yeah. We're definitely not in that future timeline. We might go back to it. I don't know, but I know for a fact that we're back in our timeline.
And I think it's kind of as we expected they would be. But then if it's not a reboot, so the Krill sort of peace treaty is still there. The Kalon is still at war.
I mean, look. Don't you want to see more Krill and more Kalon and more Mocklin? I do. Yeah. I mean, those are really wonderful. First of all, incredible prosthetic team that we have made these characters really come to life, and they feel real. It doesn't feel like people with masks on. They really, what the guys do, what our actors do with the Mocklin.
Emoting through these layers and stuff.
Unbelievable.
But it's a combination of the amazing talents of guys like Peter and I mean, Mark doesn't get enough credit for talking through a suit with no face.
He really is amazing what he's done with that. So
and Chad as well.
And I think Chad. Oh yeah, of course. I could never forget Chad. But I think you really got to see it in the case of Mark, where they took the suit off and he was still Isaac.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what was great. And I love that they did that too. I love they did that, and I love that they did that with Yaphet also, which was fantastic to see, because those are the actors that play them, but all you ever get was their voices. So although Mark put a real, the way Isaac moves, that's all Mark. He came up with that whole movement, which became a real challenge for us because we had to teach all those other guys. We had Kalon classes.
Oh my God.
We actually did. We had Kalon classes. Mark would come in, and we'd have we had a core of
Mark was a teacher.
Yeah, Mark was our teacher, and we had a core of about 15 to 20 that were really sort of our core. The other guys were in the background, but he taught these core guys how to move like him, because he walks a specific way, his head moves a specific way. So we had Isaac classes.
Kalon Academy. Yeah. I love it.
Kalon Academy. I like that. That's
what we should call it from now on.
Yeah, they should get a degree at the end, clearly. That's fantastic. And so now that we're moving into season 3, in terms of production, are you getting sort of, and the fact that you've also got, turned a lot of critics and other fans towards the show, has that changed how you're producing it? Have you got a big budget? Are you expecting to have more people, guest stars, especially? That's something a big thing on the show.
I don't know.
Here's how it feels like. This is the way I feel like we produced the show. The throttle is like this.
Yeah.
It's in production. It's in post-production. It's in the writing. It's like every inch we can get. I mean, he never settles. I never settle. Seth never settles. And I mean that is the highest compliment.
Yeah, sure.
So we do everything we can. I mean, like the two. I'm pointing to the VFX breakdown over there, but that evolved. It got bigger and bigger, and added more narrative. I mean, we got the master. I'm a fanboy about 24 Master of Action here. So there's stuff that just anything we can do to make the world bigger and just push the envelope of network television. We try.
And we have to talk about Seth because, I mean, he basically does 7 jobs on the show from the rest of what we can see. I mean, in the acting, the writing, I mean, is there any, does it get difficult to produce because he's so busy in all the different aspects?
Yeah, that's part of it. He still has commitments on Family Guy he has to do. He's acting, he's directing, he's in post, and Tom is saying, I got another edit for you to look at lunch. I mean,
We have pipeline issues, but it's not. We accept it. We acknowledge it.
Yeah.
He's a one-man band, and we're just there to support him, basically. Look. We know for sure they're going to come up with great scripts. They have right from the very beginning on the show.
I mean, you've got Brandon Braga, you've got David Goodman,
exactly.
you've got amazing.
They're so good.
Cherry,
and Cherry and Andre. I mean, it's such an amazing team that we know, and I think they're energized by last season.
Yeah.
They're going to go even further. They're going to go, oh, look at what we did. Let's go further. So at that point, then it's him and I and everybody else that's in the crew that goes, okay, you went really far. Let's see if we can, how do we now produce that? And
well, one of the moments I had in the show when I was thinking, how do they produce that, is you must have at one point got a script where it was basically, now we're entering a 2D world. And then what do you do? And I had never been able to visualize a 2D civilization before. And I think it was episode 11 in season 1. How do you do that?
That's why in the art department we have concept artists, and what they do is the drawings that you're seeing on the walls here, that's our way of showing Seth, showing the actors. We have them on set.
Yeah.
And we say, we know you're standing on a rock in front of green screen, but here's what it's going to look like. You'll be on a cliff, when you're doing Jalila.
Exactly. I mean, part of what, a lot of this didn't exist. I mean, it doesn't stay around, but this part of why we pulled this stuff is so you can see an incredibly important part of the process.
And which is prep.
Yeah, which is prep.
Yeah. It's a big part. Yeah. Look at all parts are equal as far as I'm concerned. Prep is huge, the shooting's huge, and then post is huge on the show.
It's all big.
And look, I'll tell you right now, looking into the next year, we know how hard it's going to be, and that's what excites us. I mean, anybody in this business doesn't want to do the same thing every year, doesn't want to fall into any kind of rut, and we know for a fact we won't be in any kind of rut on this show. We know that they'll be pushing us right to the limit, and we love that. Yeah.
And so one of the other things is the show, basically, you're not just looking at people on a ship, you're going on locations, you're discovering different planets. So are we going to see you going on location a bit more? Is there anything you can say about that part?
It'll probably be about the same. I mean, it's hard to say. Again, you've got to always realize, they don't say, hey, let's just do let's do an episode about a jungle planet. It never works that way. It's all about a story.
Right.
And the story is always key. And I say the word story all the time because that's what, as a director, that's what I hang on to. And so that story will take you to another world. It might not. It might be all on the ship. We had fantastic episodes that never left the ship last season.
I think some of our best episodes. I mean, it's funny. Lasting impressions that was like a sleeper. No one really. It was like, oh, it's a nice episode, and then we watched. We're like, oh my god, look at this thing.
Right.
and Gordon didn't leave the simulator. They're all standing sets. And we borrowed one set, but we never left Fox.
Yeah.
But no. It's like the trick of this show is that literally everything has to be created.
Right.
When you live in a world where everything has to be created, you're creating a challenge for yourself.
Yeah.
Just base that other shows don't have.
Well, finally, as a nerd and having loved the show since the start, I've got to ask, all the buttons, all the lights and all that stuff, is there any kind of working parts, or is it all visualized? Is it all what we see? So on the bridge, all the buttons and the chairs and all that stuff, is any of it working parts, or is it all just...
No, none of it works. Let me do the buttons work and all that?
All that stuff,
No, but little history, which I forgot how to repeat.
Bit of trivia.
We had this brilliant idea in the pilot. John was like, what was it? You have joined us to episode 5 or 6, right? So, but in the pilot, we had LCDs that would interact with your hand or try to interact with your hand. It was so overbuilt because and the amount of heat it generated, it was just insane.
I didn't even know that.
It was like one of those great, sounds like a great idea. Now let's have 35 interactive video monitors while we're trying to film a scene of people talking. It just we went to the sci-fi version, which is like press the button, do it in visual effects.
You don't want to waste time. You want to make sure it's all about acting time, not about I hit the button and it didn't work.
Right.
So basically, and what we do again with the CG is so wonderful. When they do touch the buttons, they light up as if they did touch them, and then we will have stuff that they build ahead of time. Yeah. Like if we know if it's a ship going into a planet, they can build that screen, and that screen is real. And so we do have some interaction, but the actual buttons they look great though, I must say. Look at the screens over there.
Amazing.
They're amazing.
Those are right from the set.
Another incredible department doing that work.
Yeah.
So every department is just incredible on this show.
And I remember Seth saying quite a while ago that you don't like filming the bridge shots. Has that changed at all?
No. No, I actually look. When it's all said and done, I love watching the show and saying, "Oh, the bridge looks great," but it's difficult because there's so many people and they're all in completely different situations.
Yeah.
And as a director, part of your toolbox is blocking a scene, which means designing where people move and where they go and how they talk to each other, and who's standing, who's sitting, and when you got the bridge, that all goes away because you sit there, you sit there, you sit there, you sit there, you sit there. Okay, let's go. And so it's just a time-consuming thing to do because then you have to go by it. So it's just me. It's just me.
And Tom,
no, we can talk about that for it's the whole thing.
The bridge is stuff. Yeah.
And Tom, what about you? What do you find the most challenging part of the film?
Oh wow, I found the thing a lot most challenging. It's trying to do feature quality work on a television schedule with basically what is a film director. Pushing the narrative as far as you can go, and making sure that we're building a universe. So you realize every creative decision you make, it may be small on paper, it gets a little bigger when you shoot it, and then you realize when you put it into the narrative, it's like, wow, if the character does that, you're going to go off in this direction, and now you have to decide whether that's going to be that direction. There's a few of those you get in the edit room. And you have to spend time knowing where you're going to go.
Tom, I got to give it to Tom. He's so wonderful that, first of all, he's one of the best technical editors I've ever worked with.
Please.
He does things, he takes people's blinks out. I don't know how he does that, but he's just incredible at that. But more than that, it's a storytelling. And again, you'll hear me say it over and over again. And that's exactly what he's talking about. It's that storytelling. It's making sure that whatever was in the script, whatever we shot it, when Adrian says something, it's got to stay true to her character, and he's a big part of that, and he's a big part of picking the right takes, cutting to them at the right time. I mean, the director's involved in that too, but Tom is really who overlooks all.
I'm going to do the Mutual Love Fest. The great thing about Jon, I mean, obviously, like I said, I was a fan of 24 and a lot of his other work, but also is that when Jon shoots an episode, I'm elevating it. There's I won't say, sometimes you get some stuff in the room, it's a repair job. Yeah. But like, Jon starts at an amazing level, and then between his director's cut and Seth's work and whatever I input, now we're moving the ball down the field. So that's what excites me, to have that, to start at a great place and only make it, this third part of production.
And every department's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, you guys make
this is okay, but we want that.
Make it better.
Yeah, and we're very lucky because as dedicated as we are, we have some very key people that just bleed for the show.
Well, you guys all make it look seamless, and I can't wait to see season 3. Tom, Jon, thank you so much for talking to me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us with the soundtrack.
I know.
I know.
I know.